Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is officially that time of year again. It is time for our annual layout tour video. As most of you know, this year's been kind of a strange one for me. You see, I've been kind of in a state of flux all year. It started, as all of you know, from one of my previous layout updates, with the potential for this layout to be completely torn down. We had an accepted offer in on a new house. We got the inspection back on it, and we're not fans of how much work that it ended up needing. So we backed out of the deal and decided that we're staying here, at least for the foreseeable future. And when we decided we wanted to stay here for the foreseeable future, I really started to get to thinking about the layout in its current state and what I could be doing better, what I considered to be my ideal layout. And that meant that a lot of the projects that we worked on this year were not necessarily progressive for the layout. A lot of them regressed the layout. You're looking at some blank backdrops here that are brand new because I decided, as some of you may have seen in the last layout update, that we're redoing them all. So with that said, there's certainly a step back happening on the layout right now, but I am very confident that that step backward is going to lead to kind of a giant leap forward as far as the quality of this layout is concerned. The lighting, the backdrops, some of the track rearrangement that we did this year, all of those are going to end up being net positives as far as the layout's concerned. Beyond the layout, though, this year has been a little bit crazy for me personally, and I'm not saying that to complain. I'm just saying it because I am grateful for the community that's been built here on this channel. I really appreciate every single person that I've connected with over the course of this past year, and I really appreciate the support of all of the friends that I've made through this wonderful hobby. This past year, as I mentioned, has not been an easy one for me. And without friendship in this hobby, it would have been a lot more difficult for me to get through. So thank you all for your support. And let's start the layout tour. All right, so we're starting the layout tour right here as we normally do in Geneva Yard. For those of you that are new to the channel, Geneva Yard is kind of the hub of all of the operations on this layout. All but a single job during an operating session interacts with Geneva Yard either by originating here or bringing cars here for interchange. So it is a very busy place. As you can see, it's a little empty right now because of the backdrop project going on, but usually this yard is chocked full of cars coming in and out for all of the industries and to go out to CSX and NS for interchange. So it's a very busy place, but one of the things you'll notice here is obviously the new backdrop project. If you watched the last layout update, you'll know exactly what's going on here, but if you didn't, that's okay. We'll kind of fill you in on what's going on. We are changing the backdrops to a full 3 foot. We are also using a method called a cyclorama, which is a theater practice where they curve the backdrops in order to obtain a more continuous looking backdrop. Depending on what angle you're looking at it from, feels like it's bigger than it really is. So that's the idea behind a cyclorama here on the layout. That's what we're doing here. We also, up on the other side of the layout, have sort of a finished ceiling over there, as well as a valance, which you can see in the top left, and some track lighting, which is brand new track lighting that we're working on for the whole layout eventually, but that's kind of my test corner. I just got some brand new bulbs for over there that I'm really happy with how they're looking. They have sort of a narrower cone of light, which allows me to avoid getting much of it on the backdrop. I'll likely have to build some what they call barn doors to keep it off the backdrops entirely and focus directly on the layout. But that's something that I can certainly do throughout the next couple of months as we look forward to a couple of big events coming up. The Rochester RPM in February, which registration is now open. I'll try to remember to link in the description if you're interested in coming to that. We do have an operating session happening on this layout. However, it is just one, and I can only take a maximum of 10 operators. So if you're interested in coming to that event, make sure you register now and get registered for the op session. Look forward to seeing you there. We also are looking forward to the 2028 National Convention, though, and I have a stated goal of trying to get this layout at least to a point where it's got all of the base scenery down and complete before that point. But before we got any further with base scenery, obviously I wanted to make sure that I was happy with the foundation of the layout, which is why this backdrop ceiling valance lighting project is happening first. I want to make sure the messy stuff is out of the way before I'm putting down scenery. Anyway, back to the tour itself. If you look railroad east out of Geneva, we head into the town of Auburn. Auburn right now is a little bit of a mess, actually. I apologize. With the backdrop project going on behind Geneva Yard, this has kind of become a staging place for a little bit of stuff. But Auburn is largely unchanged from last layout tour in 2024. However, it is a place where there should be changes happening. The backdrop project will reach all the way over here to Auburn. We also, during the workbench relocation, freed up some space on the other side of Auburn. You can see I've got a permanent place for my Freemo modules, which we'll talk about later, beyond Auburn there. But there's a little bit of space on the other side. So it could mean that I have the ability to rearrange track to be closer to the prototype. You can see new core, which is those GONs in the foreground. The prototype arrangement actually has those behind Auburn Yard. So I have the potential to be able to do a couple of things to change things so that the arrangement is closer to what's really there. I'm still not sure if I'm going to do it. I'm likely not going to expand the layout much more than maybe a foot if I'm going to do that, just because I like having a permanent place for my Freemo modules. But we'll see. This is a place that could look very, very different in the 2026 layout tour. So if you're not subscribed, make sure that you are so that you can keep following along and see all of the awesome changes that we make throughout the next year. As we swing around here to the other side of Geneva Yard, we're now sitting at control point Gene, which is the control point between the Norfolk Southern Corning Secondary, which is the track on the left-hand side, and the rest of the former New York Central Auburn Road, which is the track that curves around to the right. The Auburn Road is Finger Lake's own trackage. Again, as mentioned, the Corning Secondary is Norfolk Southern trackage. That's how they get up to Geneva to interchange cars with Finger Lakes Railway. As we follow the Auburn Road west out of Geneva, though, we get to a place that I like to call the Geneva Industrial Complex. There's 3 different industries here that need to be switched. We've got the Andersons, which is a grain facility here in the foreground. We've got Seneca Foods, which has that cardboard mock-up. And then we've got the OBE T-TRAK, where they get bulk lumber in on center beams. There's not really been a ton of change here this year. You'll remember from last year's layout update, there was a major track realignment project that happened here. That project has been now really well battle tested. Really happy with how everything functions here in Geneva, in the Geneva Industrial Complex, and looking forward to getting to a point where I'm ready to get the scenic. We continue to swing around here through the peninsula. You'll see a couple of different industries here. The one here in the foreground is actually kind of new for this year. This is Heidelberg Materials, and Heidelberg Materials is a gravel dealer, hence my nice stand-in for the industry, a big jug of Scenic Express ballast. So eventually this part of the layout will be a lot more scenic than it really is, but Heidelberg's a really interesting industry because they actually just load ballast cars right on the main line. They'll have one of the jobs run out all the way from Geneva, drop cars on the main. Sometimes it's GC2, which continues all the way out to Canandaigua. Sometimes it's one of the Geneva Yard jobs, depends on the day. But they'll drop cars here. Another job will come back, pick them up later, and clear the main before the GC2 job has to come back through town. It's really interesting. Figured because it's a mainline industry, I should really probably model it just because it is so easy to model something like that without taking up a lot of real estate. So we'll see what I come up with as far as how that's going to look. I've got a lot of space that I might be able to show you kind of in the foreground of the tracks, like right right here. Can't really show it to you too well, but there's a lot of space there, so I may be able to model it on that side of the tracks without making the Andersons feel like it's super compressed. There is a little bit of mileage between the two locations in real life, but unfortunately, this is a situation where selective compression is necessary. Beyond Heidelberg, we've got another industry that could unfortunately be on the chopping block. I'm not sure yet. This is Phelps Supply and also Shepherd Grain. They share a siding here. Phelps Supply gets fertilizer loads in. Phelps Grain or Shepherd Grain does a lot of soybean traffic now, soybean oil and actual soybeans coming in and out in covered hoppers. Depending on the year, they could be loading out there or they could be loads in. It's kind of a funky situation depending on what things are looking like as far as the price of soybeans and everything like that. But the reason this is kind of potentially on the chopping block is just because I really want to try to get a little bit of negative space in here before I get into Canandaigua, which is kind of what takes up most of the peninsula. If we take this sort of zoomed out view, you can kind of understand what I'm talking about. Canandaigua is going to start over here on the left-hand side. And I'm going to kind of try to model as much of downtown Canandaigua as I can. This is a really cool area of the layout where I've got the track up front, easily accessible, nice and simple for operators, but I've also got about 4 feet of depth here to play with as far as scenery is concerned. And I'd love to be able to model a little bit of an urban scene here. It's kind of my only opportunity on this layout to be able to do that because there's not a ton of mainline that's running through an urban environment. Once you get to the industries, those are kind of in population centers throughout the Finger Lakes, but the main line itself is not densely populated in between, that's for sure. So Canandaigua is a big opportunity for me to be able to model that, to be able to learn to be a good structure builder, maybe scratch build some buildings. There's some really unique buildings there that are really cool. So we'll see. I think that's kind of the way I'm leaning at this point. Getting rid of the Phelps Supply and getting that little bit of negative space in. I've got a really cool build in mind for that particular area as well. So we'll see how that progresses. It's probably not a project for this upcoming year. So it's safe for now, and we'll decide as we progress. As we look towards the right-hand side of the peninsula here, this is where we get into one of the spots that's seen a lot of change throughout the year, and that is Pactive, which is the largest industry on my layout. So this is Pactive. As I mentioned, this is a major area of progress, so to speak, on the layout. We did perform a sort of very large realignment of trackage over here. We pulled out what was here. We expanded Pactive to be much closer to the prototype footprint of the real Pactive. And because of that, it's a long switch. It takes probably a half hour to 45 minutes to service this industry in particular. And it's actually that reason that I'm really, really considering taking out Phelps Supply. We want to make sure that operators that have this GC2 job, which services the whole peninsula, are getting back to Geneva in a timely manner because my operating sessions progress through 2 prototype days. So it's important that the first day gets back with enough time for the Geneva yard to resort cars and so that we can progress into day 2 of the op session. I'm really happy with how the trackage is working out here in Pactive. It's really a fun switch. I really wanted to have a feature industry on the layout, and this was kind of the most natural one I had. Pactive on the real prototype is pretty heavy as far as the amount of cars that they get. It is definitely one of their busiest industries, and it's fun to be able to model that close to what's really there in real life. All right, so at CP Jean, if you continue west, you end up on the Corning Secondary as mentioned. We're looking at the Corning Secondary here along Seneca Lake. Now this is one of, I would say, my feature scenes on the layout, but unfortunately, it is so far progressed that this is one of the areas that I'm very hesitant to consider redoing the backdrops. So I may need to get creative over here as far as what we're doing. I still want to definitely do lighting over here. It's a little bit dark. I would love to do valances as well, but we may not have the opportunity to do some of the backdrop redo here that we're doing along the rest of the layout, just because the scene has progressed so wonderfully so far. You can tell underneath those cars that should be in Geneva Yard that there is a turnout. The track that's in the foreground is the Corning Secondary continuing to Gang Mills. And then if you go downhill, that's going to take us into Himrod Yard. All right, so here's Gang Mills Yard. Not a ton of change over here as far as scenery is concerned. I had thought to end last year's layout tour that this was going to be an area that got fully ballasted and everything. But I did decide to make a couple of small changes to the arrangement of track here in Gang Mills Yard in 2025. If we zoom in, you'll notice that the engine tracks are now on the opposite side of the yard than they originally were. This is closer to the prototype arrangement, actually. And you'll also notice that in the back of those engine tracks, there's an additional track. That's going to be actually a car shop. The Norfolk Southern H06 job is kind of one of the simplest jobs on my layout. I wouldn't call it boring, but it's definitely simple. All you're doing is switching out the yard, putting your train together, bringing it over to Geneva, and then bringing it back. By adding the car shop, my hope is that I'll be able to randomly insert a bad ordered car that H06 has to shop when they return to Gang Mills. So it's just a little bit of extra switching that our crews can do to keep them occupied, because usually H06 is kind of one of the quickest jobs to start and get done. So a little bit more entertainment for them is always a plus. So that could be an area throughout 2026 that sees a little bit of progression. I would love to get a car shop built and add that into the op scheme so that we can keep that moving forward. All right, and as mentioned, if you go down the hill there at Control Point Himrod, you end up here in Himrod Yard. Now, this is the one area of the layout where we saw a major scenery transformation throughout the course of 2025. We did a ton of work here leading up to Op Around the Clock, our ops weekend in October, and I'm really happy with how this all turned out. I took about a 15-degree cut out of the foreground of the scene to make it feel like it's actually on a hill like the real Himrod. I put in some farmers' fields. I put in a wooded area that's yet to be completed just because super trees are really hard to find right now. And then I've also got a nice little kind of meadowy area as well, where there's a little beekeeper with some beehives, which is pretty cool. But overall, I'm really happy with how this scene turned out. That's why it was our intro to the video. Really love the way things are looking, and looking forward to finishing the scene as well, because there's still a little bit of work to do with those trees and a little bit more work as well. But if we look up there at the north end of Himrod Yard, you can see that there's another track that curves off to the left and underneath the Corning Secondary. And that's the line up to Penn Yan. So let's go check out Penn Yan and see what's new there. So here we go. This is the high-level view of Penn Yan. There's not a ton of changes here, but there's one really cool one I want to talk about. But before we do, let's just take a quick rundown of the industries. You can see right here in the foreground, this is Silgan Plastics, which is the second plastic pellet industry on my layout. This one's not nearly as large as far as capacity to Pactive, but it is another plastic pellet facility on the layout. This one's pretty neat because there's a really long run of vacuum line heading uphill and into the building that's actually modeled in the backdrop. So kind of cool. I've got that modeled all the way to the backdrop, and then if you look closely at the backdrop itself, you can actually see the line continue up the hill. I scratch built this fall protection a couple of years ago, so that's not new or anything, but it's a pretty cool part of the layout there for sure. If we zoom in to the other two industries on this part of the layout, you can see Lakeview Organics, which is over there on the right-hand side. This is an interesting industry. It's kind of in a funky place operationally for my operators because it is in the foreground. It hasn't seemed to cause many issues. Operators are still able to drop a single car there, which is all they really take, and it seems to work out. And then to the left is Burkett Mills. Now, Burkett Mills is actually one of the only areas here in Penn Yan that's seen some progress throughout the year, and that's because my good buddy Joey from Late Night Hobbies scratch built me this absolutely gorgeous former Pennsylvania Railroad freight house. This thing was really cool. I went out there and actually took some drone photos of it so that he had all of the reference material that he needs. There's still a little bit more of the structure that's not modeled here, but the structure that he made for me is absolutely beautiful. I can't thank him enough. He didn't. It's so kind of him to put this together for me, along with another gentleman who wanted to make sure that this was preserved as well, because the structure itself is unfortunately slated for demolition. It's a really cool structure. Absolutely gorgeous job doing it. I think I have some reference images of the other side of the building, but it's got a cool Burkett Mills logo on that side, and overall really enhances the scene and makes it very clear that I still have some scenery work to do here in Penn Yan to get it really looking good. That's for sure. So we might be done looking at the main layout, but we are far from done with this video, and that's because there was plenty of stuff that pulled me away from the main layout but kept me modeling this year, and these Freemo modules were a big part of that. I built these at the end of 2024 and made a big push to have these ready for the Sydney Shakedown Cruise, which is a annual Freemo meet in Sydney, New York, put on by my good friend Brandon, and got them ready, got them down there. They performed great. I learned a couple of things, made a couple of modifications, and then quickly turned around and brought them to the Northeast Region Convention as well, where they performed pretty much flawlessly. I'm really happy with how these Freemo modules are looking, how they are performing, and it's now time to really start thinking about doing some scenery in earnest. We've got a little bit done here with the Tonawanda Creek scene here in the foreground, but it's time to start thinking about, at bare minimum, ground foam and ballast for the rest of the layout before we get these to the RPM in February. So a lot of work ahead of me here, but really happy with how these are turning out. It's really started to send me down a freelance rabbit hole, as some of you may know, and we'll get into that in a minute. But also just wanted to show off that we've got this stand-in transload structure here, which is really cool to have a place where cars kind of disappear off the layout as far as switching is concerned. Freemo is pretty cool because you can operate from both sides of these modules, so you can actually go around to the other side, look in there, see what's there. But from this side, it really looks like it's a transload structure. And again, really looking forward to progressing these further before that February date for the RPM. So let's take just a quick look at the sort of freelance journey I've started to go down. This is the first completed locomotive that I've got for the freelance, which is going to be, to be clear, a completely Freemo project. This will not replace the main layout in any sense, but it's a really cool concept that I'm really looking forward to going through in more detail at some point. But this is the first locomotive that I've got painted up. It's a rebuilt GP30 for the Genesee, Wyoming Transportation Company. So you can see here, not only have we finished the locomotive, but we've also got a bit of a freight contest started as well. The big commodity on the Genesee, Wyoming Transportation property is going to be salt, which you can kind of tell from that first covered hopper being an XD&H 4750 that's completely grimy. We've also got some Magor 4750s painted up for GWTX. And we've also got a couple of freelances from my club and friends like Dennis Colucci here. His boxcar is also in the background. And then we've also got one complete repaint ready for salt service as well, which is pretty cool. But these projects kept me busy, kept me at the workbench and away from the layout itself. But I really enjoyed working on them. And as you'll see as we finish up the video, there's plenty more freelance stuff to come as well. So as we take a look at the mobile workbench, which is another project that got completed this year, it's an easy place to work on larger projects. You'll notice that we've made our first foray into N-Scale. This is a T-TRAK module by the kits by Klondike, if you're interested in checking those out. But I really wanted to make a point in 2025 of inspiring as many people as I could to model. That's why we built those Freemo modules. That's why we're building this T-TRAK module, is to show people how easy it is to get into this hobby. This module is completed using no power tools whatsoever. All you need is painter's tape and wood glue, and you're set to go. Really simple. We're still pushing to get this finished. I've got a big push to make because the goal is to have this ready for the Amherst show coming up this January, where it'll be on display as a part of the Northeast T-TRAK layout. There's a couple of other content creators that I've been working with. We formed a group called the Upload Express Modelers, and we're all working on the same goal of inspiring people to model through building T-TRAK modules. This is a very near and dear scene to me. This is Jericho Road on the CSX main line, as some of you who have seen the T-TRAK layouts may know. But this is where my dad used to take me rail fanning all the time. So I felt it really necessary to create this scene somehow in order to kind of pay homage to him and be grateful for all of the time he and I spent together. This is his old truck that we used to go rail fanning in. It's a 1978 F-250 Super Cab. And I even went as far as finding a good match for the dark metallic brown paint, which you can't, the lighting's not great, so you can't really see what color it is. But really happy to have this project progressing and really need to make a big push towards finishing it for Amherst. You can see that there's still some ballast left to complete. I need to touch up the road surface and paint the road itself. And then we've got to get a crop planted in our field here as well. So be on the lookout. There'll definitely be more updates on the T-TRAK module as the month of January progresses. All right, so now we are looking at no layout at all, but this is hopefully something that a lot of people are interested in. This was the final big project that I worked on in 2025, which was relocating my workbench, building a new workbench over here behind Penn Yan. And boy, am I happy with how this turned out. This is a 14-foot long space with a little bit of a jut out there on the left-hand side, a couple cabinets underneath, and a bunch of pegboard up behind the workbench to store all my tools and everything. And so far, I've been really enjoying working in this space. You can kind of tell that I've got some thought into it. You kind of work from right to left on messier projects, moving towards cleaner projects. So you've got the paint booth on the right-hand side. You've got a central area for sort of glue up and miscellaneous tasks. And then on the left-hand side, you've got a nice clean area for soldering and decoder installs as well. You've got room for my fume extractor and all the stuff that I really didn't have room for on the old workbench. So really excited to have this pretty much done. The final thing that I need to do is get a monitor to put up there, kind of in that blank spot. I've also got a tray that holds my laptop there so that I can have that up with me, and then a wireless keyboard and mouse there on the left-hand side. This workbench is built with live streaming in mind. You can see that there's two different camera mounts there and my webcam that I can move back and forth so that it can be at whatever station I'm working at during my Talk and Trains live streams, and also use them for video making itself, which I've got some pretty cool projects that I'm hoping to get complete in the year 2026 using this workbench. So look forward to that content for sure. But you'll also notice that there's a couple of projects on the workbench right now that I want to show you guys before we wrap up the video. So I thought it'd be cool to kind of show you guys not just the progress on the layout itself, but the progress we've made on locomotives. And we've got a bunch of really cool projects done throughout the year, starting with this RS11 here, which is the prototype locomotive for my Freemo modules. The prototype that I'm modeling there is Genesee Valley Transportation, which is kind of where that spin-off name Genesee Wyoming Transportation came from. but they've got a pretty cool fleet of old Elcos. This is just one of them that we worked on throughout this year. It's got light weathering and also has some uh, functioning front and rear ditch lights, scale sound speaker, and ESU installed. That was a fun project to work on for sure. We also made a big push this year to finish out the Finger Lakes Railway locomotive roster for my time frame of 2013 to 2015. You can see there's 3 different locomotives down here specifically that were completed towards that goal. The first is an accurate 2310 for that time frame. This locomotive is obviously ex-Santa Fe. Came to me in rough shape, unfortunately. Got damaged in transit, so we had our work cut out for us, but we've got that done. It's got a light weathering, and I've also got my good buddy Jim working on the rooftop detail to match the Santa Fe prototype. Second locomotive here is the first of 3 custom painted locomotives that we completed in 2025. This is Finger Lakes number 2308, which is a former Camas Prairie unit. That's the yellow and black scheme that you're seeing here. It's not Watco, even though you might think it is. You can see there's kind of, you might be able to see in the light, you can see that the old Camas Prairie logos have been patched out and a little Finger Lakes decal has been added. But this was a complete custom repaint. It's also a chop nose, which meant that I had to file down the nose to be smooth. Otherwise, it has a dummy light housing for anything that doesn't have the nose light like the Santa Fe units. But that was a really cool project to get finished. I'm really happy that I did. And then the final locomotive that we completed for the Finger Lakes layout was number 1703, which you may have just seen in the last layout update. So 1703's got a lot of really cool detail that I'm proud of. This was kind of my first custom paint, custom, Frankenstein kit bash sort of build. And it's got a lot of separately applied detail, a lot of 3D printed parts from various manufacturers, some etched metal grills that unfortunately in this lighting you're not able to really see that well. But it's a really gorgeous locomotive. I'm really happy with how it turned out and really happy to put this through its first op session whenever I get the chance to do that next. So really cool unit, that's for sure. And then, of course, there's the Freelance locomotive that you saw in the clip there on the Freemo layout. This is a rebuilt GP30 in the Genesee, Wyoming transportation scheme. Really happy with how this one turned out. Again, ESU lock sound, scale sound system speaker, completely custom painted, detailed as well. And again, happy with how this turned out. And it's become a bit of a slippery slope as far as Freelance locomotives are concerned. You can see we've actually got 2 of them over here on the right-hand side that I'm excited to show you guys. One of them in particular is looking a little bit cooler than the other one. And there's a cool story behind it as well. This is going to be Genesee, Wyoming Transportation number 32, which is a former B and CCS locomotive, which for those of you who don't know that company, that's because it's a Freelance company that my friend Dennis Colucci is the owner of. And you can see that it's definitely former B and CCS when you look at the long hood and roof of the locomotive. You can see a little bit of Dennis's paint scheme showing through. The story behind these locomotives is going to be that he ordered them, tacking them onto a CNW order, which is why they have the CNW nose gong bell, and decided that the B and CCS just wasn't a good place for 6-axle power, so he traded them to me for a pair of Elcos that we started our Freelance with and decided we wanted to standardize on EMD pretty quickly. But you can see the blue coming through on the long hood, and then over on the other side you can actually see behind the Genesee, Wyoming Transportation a little bit of his logo coming back through as well through a process called paint chipping. And I'm really happy with how this is turning out so far. Looking forward to getting this weathered because right now it's in a gloss coat, which really doesn't make sense for that paint chipping, but needed to happen in order to get the decals on. All of the decals, except for the rear numbers, are for the number boards are on. So we should be able to get that progress wrapped up soon, and I may have it with me at Springfield. I may not, I'm not sure, but I'll definitely have it with me at the Rochester RPM. And speaking of Springfield, if you're going, I will be working at the NMRA booth. So if you want to stop by and say hi and talk about the NMRA, I'll be there. Looking forward to speaking with you. And we'll also have some really cool decals with us, Dennis, Joey, and I, which will be free samples of Circa, which is one of the other projects that I've been working on. You can see a few of the Circa decals here on this sheet that I'm working on for Brandon. But Circa is a really cool thing that Joey and I and John Farrington started, and brought Dennis in for some prequel type stuff. But it's a really cool way to tie freelances together, sort of a rail car leasing and short line member benefit organization. There's a lot of information out there if you're interested. I'll try to remember to link down in the description to our Facebook page and the place where you can buy the decals if your freelance wants to be a part of Circa. So really cool stuff. So there you have it. What felt like a really weird year where nothing really got done to me is now suddenly feeling like one of the most productive years I've ever had. Just not necessarily looking like it on the main layout. But I hope that some of the projects that you've seen throughout the course of this video have intrigued you enough to hit that subscribe button and follow along throughout 2026, because as you can see, there's a whole lot more that needs to get done, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you guys. Thank you again so much for everybody's support throughout the year 2025, and here's to an even better 2026. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.